Sit Rep Podcast. I'm Marty, and I'm joined here by our good friend Dr. Steve Fratt of Frattspiel Games. And Steve, you have a impressive Alamo set up here, so please tell us about the game. I heard there's a little bit of a story on how you got the terrains. We'd like to hear that. And then, are these your own rules, or are you using another rule set? Explain what we got going on here, sir.
This is the play set that we all wish we had in the 60s, okay? So let's go back to the 60s for a second. My dad brought home, he worked for Sears, so he brought home an Alamo play set. And so on our family room floor, we'd set it up, with the steel walls and all that. And I put my Confederates inside of it, and then had my Yankees, my red-coated lobster back, my Colonials, and we even put Zulus in the mix to get as many figures as we could to go against the Alamo guys. And the rules were simple. You say, I'm going to fire a cannon, you got to roll a 6. 6 guy goes down, and if you don't fire a cannon, 1 or 2 is a hit. And our battles tended to be down to the last man on both sides. They were fun. But as I got more engaged with history, and I said, I want something more accurate. And so it's led to this. So what I did over the years, collecting pieces, Toy Soldiers of Conte Collectibles came out with major pieces like that quarter building there. That's kind of like the holy grail of Conte's.
Yep. So we'll do a little walk around here,
yes.
and you can kind of explain what some of that stuff is.
Yes.
So why don't we come on around here,
yes.
So that way we can make sure that we're talking to our peeps.
One observation. San Antonio?
Yeah.
This is why you don't have the Alamo anymore, because Steve's got it up here.
Thank you very much. Okay.
That's not true. He's got the church.
Ta-da. Yeah, the church is still there. And the Long Barracks first floor is also still there. So what I did over the years, I got Toy Soldiers of San Diego, here, Hobby Bunker, and then Toy Soldiers of San Diego completed the north part of it. So over the years, I've been collecting these, and I've only played this once before at Little Wars many years ago. It was on the floor, and we had the kids on the floor fighting the battle, and the parents were sitting in their chairs.
As it should be.
Yes. I can't go on the floor anymore.
No.
So we brought it here on the table.
I feel you, my friend. I'm with you.
So this is pretty accurate. In fact, what it reflects. Let me get this. Mark Lemon is kind of well known for his model of the Alamo, and it's probably the most historically accurate one. And so I've modeled mine after his as much as one could do. So I feel it represents what it looked like. The guns, these cannon, are historically accurate. Barzo put out the cannon, the 18 cannon of the Alamo, and did an accurate job for his day, and there's been more research ever since. So what we have is we have 182 Texans. These are BMC guys. I didn't paint them. I got better things to do than paint. So, and they allow me to bring unpainted figures because this is the play set we all wish we had. So thank you to HMGS.
I was going to say that, and you might have pulled the past president card out.
Well, I don't know. It's unspoken, maybe. Or they remember me doing it on the floor and say, well, let's do this again.
But not only that, you got a 1-to-1 scale Alamo here.
There you go.
Yeah, you don't paint these, you actually dress them, yeah?
We dress them like this. Go after them. Yeah, okay. So the neat thing for the historian is you build this thing, you start to, things are revealed. So for instance, the Alamo defenders were organized into companies. Mm-hmm. And my friend Dennis Bishop, he's passed, bless him. Back in Kansas, we did Alamo games together. He did one for Command Magazine. I was doing miniatures. Mm-hmm. And he introduced me to the fact that the Alamo defenders were organized with captains and sergeants and stuff. And so what dawned on me was when those 32 guys came from Gonzales as reinforcements before the assault, that's the wall they defended. So you start thinking if they didn't show up, no one would be on that wall, and you'd have to take what you have, stretch them out even more.
Yeah, well, and just thinking that it's only 32 dudes on this wall.
That's right. That's right.
That's nuts.
So one option you could do is you could say Fannin arrived with 400 more guys. You could do that
Yeah.
and say what would have been like for Santana to attack with 600 defenders in there. So that's a what if that might be kind of interesting to do.
Oddly enough, you say what if, our last podcast last Saturday was what if situations. You know, what if you change one
Yes.
variable in a historical situation, what would that have been like?
And we one of the things we talked about was, you know, the movie The Final Countdown.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Going back,
Kirk
what
Douglas.
would one current Marine company
Yeah.
do?
Yes. Yeah. And what's the author that's done that before? AK-47s at Gettysburg or something like that. I forget the author, but there's been, fascinating stuff. So, you know, for me, it's always something to learn from playing the game. Now, for others, it's just fun playing the game. So that's kind of the war game world.
Right.
Some are into just roll dice and have fun. So I try to address that, but I also want to address learning something from the experience, too.
Absolutely. That's one of the upsides for me personally about playing historical games is
Yes.
that, well, there's actual history involved. You know, it's not lore like in a sci-fi game, perhaps, or a fantasy game. It's the actual history.
Yes, which on occasion becomes legend.
Well,
Legend becomes reality,
that's
print the
good.
legend,
I was gonna say,
and
there's,
shot Liberty Venice.
yeah, there's some legends here as well.
Yeah. And the thing with that is, well, the first time is for fun. The second
Yes.
time, you're more accurate than, you know, all the replays are like, what ifs?
When I ran a 9 o'clock game, and then I did a 2 p.m. game too. And after, when we're done playing, I asked the players, do you have it? Yeah, we have fun. Would you have done anything different? Say, you know, I probably should have done this. So that's part of the debriefing learning process too.
Sure.
Let me draw your attention to this gun here. This is the famous 12-pound carronade. That's usually on a ship, and it has a bigger bore, so it's like a scatter gun to clear the decks. And so they stuck that guy there. In the 2004 movie, they had the guy there and, you know, took care of the first Mexicans that attacked the wall. So everyone knows about that, but recent history has brought our attention to the fact that this gun here, usually it's a bronze 6-pounder, which that is, but recent history has shown it's probably a 24-pound howitzer.
Whoa, oh, okay, that's
Which
a little
has the
different.
same bore close to a 12-pound carronade. Fascinating. So I'm treating that as a 24-pound howitzer. And then this gun up here usually is deemed to be a 9-pounder gun, but you could go on Alamo websites and see this. They've recovered the barrel to this gun. It's a 16-pound gun, bored out of a 9-pounder. And what they've done is they put it on a carriage, and it's currently sitting right next to the church in the courtyard there. And they think that it was up here on the west wall.
Uh-huh.
So when you take all this into account, the west is where the enemy's coming from, and they go through the town.
Right.
The heaviest guns then, 16-pounder, 24-pound howitzer, 12-pound carronade, 18-pounder, are all directed where the threat is coming from.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you just see, this is where they were. Oh, this, using the idealism approach to history. Making an explanation for why they would do this provides an explanation. We don't know what, we don't have the documentation.
Sure.
But you look at it and you say, common sense, that's probably what they had in mind.
Yeah, well, and you had some folks that were, you know, legit military tacticians there, so, you know, them concentrating their firepower on the most likely avenue of approach makes sense.
Yeah. And then it just hit me, just right this instant, when the Mexicans garrisoned this place, they probably put the heavier guns looking east.
Again,
Would be
most
my-
likely
be
avenue
the
of
sense,
approach
yeah.
from your enemy, sure.
Well, they read the front of the Claymore, front toward enemy.
Yeah.
All the time. So then what we have here is, I've set up the historical account. You read Santa Anna, everyone's read this over and over. He had very precise instructions on how the attack would take place. And so he said, we're going to take the Aldama Battalion with half of San Luis, the Toluca Battalion with the other half of San Luis. we're going to take 2 battalions over there, but we're only going to pull 100 men out from each battalion, the reliable men, which is interesting. The unreliables, you stay in camp. And then down there we have the light infantry, which are they're stealthily. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. And then cavalry, okay? So the cavalry was all around to encourage Mexicans to stay in the battle, but also for the escape. And so when you look at all this, the palisade fence there has a gate at it, and I'm pretty sure Santana was thinking some of the garrison will try to escape, and beyond the flags there is the Alameda going to Gonzales, 92 miles away, which is, at our scale, across the tracks here down Half Day Road. So the cavalry was ready to pounce on anything that would try to escape.
Yep.
And there's evidence that they did try. Get that in a minute. So how to game this thing? So I said, well, we'll do 4 turns to get up to the wall. Well, if turns 20 minutes, go to it. No. It's all in 1 turn. So what I do is, on the first 5 minutes, I have the Alamo cannon fire on the enemy. I used to, for each gun, if it's 9 pounds, I roll 9 dice. I used to add up all the pits and divide by 6 for hits. It was too much.
Yeah, that's like work.
So I found out the last 2 days, I said, let's just hits on 6. And in the second turn, 5s and 6, then back to 6. And that takes into account the angles of fire, this and that. And they're firing melange, which is like scraps, metal scraps, nails, and stuff like that. They didn't have a lot of canister.
I was going to say, it's homemade canister shots.
Yeah, exactly. Desperate. Okay. And if someone comes to research to say, no, it was this, then we make adjustments. So what I do then is they reach the walls, and the cannons do their thing, and now the Texans fire. Now, and then the Mexicans shoot back. How are you going to do that? You're going to roll a die for every stand? No. And so what I do with the Texans on their side of it, let me get a couple dice here. The Texans had 1,000 muskets that they captured. So I say, on my Freshfield dice here, on a 20-sider, the Texans roll 20-siders to begin with. 6s or better is a hit. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to roll 7 dice. 1, 2, 3. That's a miss. 4, 5, and another miss. So 5 stands across the front. If you, Craig Laurie here, who's the Mexicans, take the casualties across the front there. Now on the next turn, the Texans will fire a 12-sider. And the turn after that, they fire a 10-sider, and then they fire an 8-sider, and after that, it's a 6-sider, 1 and 6, because they got a low. So that represents their declining firepower by doing it that way, which is going off the trail, off the chain of what you normally would do.
Yeah, but I follow you. Okay.
So what about the Mexicans?
They roll all the other ones.
Yeah, that's a waste of our time. So the accounts say, the Mexican accounts say, a Texan could not live on the wall. So I'm saying, you know what? The first turn the Mexicans are up here and they get sorted, they will roll the 6-sider looking for a 6. The next turn, the 8-sider looking for 6 or better.
So reverse order.
We go up the other ladder. So the longer they're there, the more difficult it is, the more they get their chutzpah to wipe Texans off. It works.
Yeah, but
it
so they
really works.
So everyone gets up there, they get within range, they get their lines reformed, their commanders are able to give them orders, all that. Very good. Okay.
And so the Texans, they're doing this to hit them, and there's an excellent chance they're going to die themselves. So that's a decision the Texans have.
Yep.
If the Texans pull back from the wall, they're going to come over the wall like sheep.
I was going to say, they'll just breach the walls, and then they're chasing you around the inside of the compound.
So what about ladders? Okay, so for the regular troops, they have 2 officers for each company. So that's a matter, take any die you want, they have a 50% chance of putting up a ladder. So when you put up a ladder, you put a guy at the top of the ladder, and that's how we do the ladders every turn. Okay? And then these guys are disadvantaged to an advantage, so they roll different dice. You got to beat them by 1, and so a lot of times these guys are going to go down. But as the Texans start to lose troops,
gonna say,
the Mexicans will start pouring over with like 3 stands go over there, and then we start to have the Mexicans do this, so they have an advantage at that level. So
makes sense.
by going back to the, rather than just following the logic that we always do in our rules, well, logically it's more so we do this, I kind of go back to the drawing board. Now wait a minute, there's got to be a different way to do that, which doesn't waste our time, but
Right.
it has the right historical feel. And
Sure.
so I think I've arrived at that with this game.
Yeah. Well, and we've had the discussion in the past of you have to balance historical accuracy versus gameplay.
Yes.
Because you can lean very hard into historical accuracy, and your game gets very crunchy and slow, and then maybe it's not as much fun for some people, and they don't want to play.
That's right.
So that kind of defeats the purpose. On the other hand, we don't want to just be, here, I'm going to roll a bag full of dice like it's orcs for 40K or
I
something.
think you're playing Yahtzee.
Yeah.
So what I think, I'm consumed by the vision that there's a win-win. And the problem with the past is we use the 6-sided die and use charts to load modifiers on it. And this might sound like my other so I've gone to let's deconstruct and go with different sided die to account for the differences.
Sure.
And that means, and so just think of it, logically I'd roll for it. Well, they could get a die per stand, they get a die per stand. Ridiculous. This works. Fewer die rolls, and then what I see with the gamers is they say, yeah, that feels right.
And you don't have a bunch of charts that you're trying to go through, because I'm not a fan of that myself.
I mean, how many charts are we using here?
Yeah.
I mean, after the couple turns, guys know what's going on. Now I have it all. Again, I'm going to write these rules up and charts and stuff.
Yeah, Marty doesn't like math.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of super crunchy stuff.
Well,
The less the better for me.
I'm realizing that there are people, we're so used to doing the calculations that I can understand how people get used to doing the calculations, but I'm 69. I want meaningful actions, but the fewer days I have ahead of the past. Quote from Jean-Luc Picard, okay?
I was going to say, turns out your time is becoming more and more precious as time goes on.
Exactly. So
Let's
I
not
want-
waste it doing math and looking at charts if we don't have to.
Meaningful time.
Yeah.
But the benefit is, for me to be propelled by that approach, makes fun, playable games that feel historically accurate. And I'm thinking of the younger people coming.
Sure.
And actually, a couple of the guys here, I'm seeing now they're doing things on their own, and I'm proud of the fact that I might have had some influence on the way they approach gaming.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see them create their own approach to that. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
and we don't want the mechanics of the game to be a barrier to entry for new players as well.
How many people have I heard say, I'm not doing Civil War or Napoleonics because I join them and I want to do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And so with my other games that you guys have looked at, I'm going to show you how you can do it. And so there's better feel. We just put our emphasis on calculations at a different point and make it easier to calculate, and it just turns the whole thing around.
Absolutely, good deal.
So,
well, you have an amazing setup here. I love. What scale would this be? Is this
1/32.
All right, so
54
would that be
millimeter
54
toy
mil?
soldiers.
Okay, all right.
54 mil toy soldiers.
That's what I had said yesterday, and I just wanted to confirm that.
So the other deal is, of course, I have different scales. I have 2 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 15 millimeter. Now, my table at home is about this size. Frustration is I can't fit all this on my table at home. I got to put that on a different part. I'm ready to let this go. So if any of you out there want to buy this thing, it's ready to go. And because I have a 15 millimeter at home, I can fit on my table and
there
still
you
do
go.
the game.
How-
But it
fully
was fun
kitted
collecting
out.
this.
You just
Let's
need to
ready
paint
let go.
the miniatures.
If you want.
You don't have to paint the miniatures, it's a play set.
Fine.
And if HMGS is allowing me to present this with unpainted miniatures, wow,
I mean-
we turn a corner or something.
Yeah.
The massive, there's eye candy here without the painting.
No,
Painting's in the fort.
yeah, 100%. All right. Well, Steve, we thank you for your time today, and for the Sit Rep podcast. This is Marty, and we will see you in the next one. Welcome back to the Sit Rep Podcast. I'm Marty, and I'm joined by Tony from Enemy Spotted Studios. And Tony is showcasing their game In Country.
Yes.
So, the vendor display may look a little bit in disarray, but that is because it is currently being used in a demo game next to us. So we'll take a look at all that stuff here in a second. But Tony, tell us a little bit about the game and what's going on with Enemy Spotted Studios.
Wow, so Enemy Spotted Studios is a veteran-owned company. They're constantly giving back to Mission 22, trying to prevent suicide, like giving suicide awareness. They have anything and everything that is modern military and modern conflicts. Whenever you look at these, we have zip ties, trauma shoes. You're going to be seeing a lot of detail in all these models. We have consultants that are staying up to date with the modern new things that are coming out. Because as we leave the military, we start losing a little bit track of what that would be. So we're staying up to date constantly. Anything from Africa, United States, overseas in Europe, we have it all.
Yeah, as Tony was saying, the models are very detailed. We talked about that back at Little Wars, and I have since had the chance to paint my starter set. Well, okay, half of it, but yes, very detailed. Julian, thanks for modeling watches. Thanks. Appreciate that. So, anywho, you can see that we've got a smattering of some of our models available here, and then we'll take a look at the ones that are actually on the table here in a minute. So, what's the Reader's Digest version of In Country? When a new player would go to play a game, what can they expect?
Well, they can expect very simple rules, really easy to pick up. Games go 5 to 30 minutes. What do I mean by that? Somebody standing out in the open, it's very easy to be able to hit them. If somebody you can see 50% of them, it's kind of hard to shoot at them. Or if they're all the way hunkered down, touching terrain, it's going to be hard. It's extremely lethal, and that's what leads to having the very quick games.
Yes.
Nice and easy. So the new expansion, Recon, what it does is, how do I say that it's easy? I learn a number, and if they're out in the open, in the middle of the road, I'm doing 3 die. And I hit that number, it means that I hit them. I'm trying to see if I'm lethal, if their body armor protects them. If it doesn't, they're taking a wound. Towards the end of the round, they're going to see if that wound sticks. If it sticks, the person dies. If the person passes, it means that the body armor was able to sustain the shock and they keep fighting.
Yeah, so I can verify for the lethality of the game. My first game that I played lasted 2 turns and we burned everyone off the board. So it went very, very lethal. So the In Country, the original version, designed to be played on a 2x2.
Yes.
Small space, small model count,
accessible.
Yeah. So there's not a great barrier to entry as far as terrain and model count. Doesn't take a whole lot.
4v4, 6v4. Nice and simple.
And then when we move into the recon rules, the board gets a little bigger, right? 3x3 is what it's designed for. And then basically it's very similar rules. So streamlined, easy to play, doesn't require a ton of terrain.
It does ready
but if you want to load your board up as well, that'll make for an interesting game. Because let's face it, you got to have line of sight to shoot most of these dudes. So
true.
The more terrain you have on there, the more challenging it is, the more you're going to have to maneuver, all that good stuff.
Yes, sir. The good thing is, during my turn, I can activate, and then the enemy can take turns trying to either return fire, ambushing me if they catch me like mid motion.
Perfect. Yeah, it's very much kind of like a simultaneous play, if you will. Yeah. So fun stuff there. So to get an idea of what a game might look like,